You're listening to the Rebel Scum podcast.
You are always scum. Rebel Scum.
From odds making to list rankings, we've got you covered. And don't forget to join us on Patreon for early access and exclusive content. Here are your hosts, Brock and James.
Hey, Brock.
Hey, James.
My name's Cobb Vanth. We gotta go kill that crate dragon.
James, James, what does it feel like to have new Star Wars content in your life?
Oh my god, isn't it fantastic? I was so excited. I woke up Friday bright and early, and I did not watch it immediately because I knew Aaron wanted to watch it. And I sat there, and I had people texting me, like, have you seen it yet? And I said, no. They're like, well, I'm about to watch it now. And I had to wait. And then Rob, Darth Ward, texted me. He said, effing awesome. And I was like, I haven't seen it. Shut up. And I couldn't go on the social media. So I ended up watching it I think around 10 or 11 a.m., which is still kind of early when you think, like, it was still early. Yeah. But when did, I know you worked on Friday. I was off on Friday, but you worked. When did you sit down and watch The Mandalorian?
I woke up and I watched it immediately at 5:45 in the morning.
That's how it should be.
That's right. I woke up in the morning. The first thing I did is I watched it because I get up early anyways. Yeah. I need like a couple hours to get myself going to go to work. I think I worked at like 8 o'clock that day. So it's like wake up at 6, watch it, get dressed, go to work.
I don't find anything wrong with that.
It was fun.
Sorry, last year when I had to go into work, I woke up at, I think it was 5:30 in the morning to watch the premiere episode.
Right.
So I totally get that.
It was great. You don't need Folgers in your cup anymore. You just need Mandalorian in your face.
You need Vanthers in your cup. Cobb Vanth is
and
back.
I'm still laying in my bed watching this. I'm just watching it on my phone like this.
How many times have you seen it now? Because I know when we spoke after, you said, I want to watch it again. How many times have you seen it now?
I watched it again last night. Just because like, I should get ready for the podcast for this. Still, I thought it was great. It's so perfect for TV. You know what I mean? Like, or I guess you can call Disney Plus TV. It looks like a movie, and it could fit. Like all those characters could be dropped in the movie, but like. There's just like it floors me to think that like, oh man, we have Star Wars on TV now.
Yes, it's so true. I'll get right to it. I loved this episode, but two things stuck out to me, not negatively, but two things stuck out to me that weren't like over the top. One, it was twice as long as the episodes last year, which whatever, it's fine.
There we go.
Yeah, but that's whatever. But the other thing. Really, though, the only negative thing that I will really say about this episode was it was basically episode 4 from season 1. It was Mando has to recruit a bunch of locals who don't really know what they're doing to fight off a big, huge thing, but in an hour-long time frame. And last week, and I have to say this though, because last week when we were talking, I said that was probably the weakest episode of season 1, and then I come on here and I'm going to say that this was the greatest thing I've ever seen when it's basically just that. But the reason why I believe this one is better than that one is this one, the length helped it out because it felt a lot more fleshed out in regards to everything. 2, it was the Boba Fett armor. We'll get to it, obviously, but we should mention we're doing spoilers. But the Boba Fett armor, not because it's Boba Fett or anything like that, but because it was other Mandalorian armor. You don't have to know whose armor that was specifically to understand that for some reason this local guy is wearing the armor of a Mandalorian, which season 1 taught us so much about. And I think, and then the whole thing was obviously about getting that back. And I think that kind of added more depth to this episode than chapter 4 of season 1, which again, I really do like that episode. I just watched it when did I watch it, Brian? I tell you, yesterday I watched the entire season in the background. all 9 episodes. But and that one I do enjoy. It just, I think as the whole, if you look at each one individually, for me that one is the weakest. But I don't know how you felt, but this one seemed like a longer version of that episode in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the problem with the show is that you get episodes where there's like this huge reveal or some amazing thing. So it's like if it doesn't deliver that kind of vibe, then you're like, "Ooh, that was weak," right? Like your first episode is like, "Oh, this is very cool. Oh, wow, the Mandalorian. This is all really neat." And like, "Wow, this looks so good." And then you get to the point where it's like, "By the way, here's a baby," right? So it's like, unless you deliver that every episode, there's going to be points where you're like, that was kind of weak. So like, yeah, episode 4, the last one, even though it's probably the most memeable episodes of The Mandalorian, a freaking baby Yoda with a bowl of soup.
And the ATST for me was so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
I said to you yesterday, like, this is like the best EU we've ever gotten. And when I think about that, because we go back to the egg episode is a personal favorite of mine. But why is it a personal favorite? And it's not because it's to scale of one of the films, or even to, episode 3 or 6, 7, or 8 of the series, or 9 for that matter now. But like, it's because it's because of that EU element, and there are pieces of it that remind me of the Super Star Wars video games. There's elements of it that remind me of Indiana Jones. And there's little pieces of that is just, it's over the top, but it's not over the top spectacle necessarily. It's just the action went up. But it's just a fun ride about this character in a mask doing stuff. And I think that's the charm of it. Is just, it's weird as it sounds, it's kind of down to earth, nitty gritty. Like, we're just gonna follow this guy do this thing.
Yeah, and
it's so much fun to watch because, and for Star Wars fans now especially, the little Easter eggs that we get with each episode, because we're talking like, how are they going to fit Ahsoka in? How are they going to fit Bo-Katan? How are they going to fit all this? Boba Fett, I thought the way his armor was approached was pitch perfect, because I heard people complain they went back to Tatooine, but that's where you have to go, because if his armor does come out of that Sarlacc pit, which now it has, the only place it's going to be in this period of time is Tatooine. So you have to go back there.
No, I fully agree. I honestly, after that episode especially, I honestly think the writer's room on this show is like, okay, what's your childhood memory of Star Wars? Because and your example of calling this EU, which it is, but like comparing it to the EU prior to like Disney purchased and even before the prequels were made, a lot of what drew people to that was building on what existed already. And a lot of like a really interesting part would be like, this is what Tusken Raiders are actually like. This is what Mon Cala are actually like. You got more of that and you're like, oh, that's so interesting, right? So like this episode reminds me of the second episode of last season where we get to see the Jawas, right? We get to explore Jawas close up and interact with them and hear what they're saying. We didn't really hear what the Tusken Raiders were saying, but like somebody in that writing was like, yeah, so like we're just gonna make it that Mando can just speak Tusken Raider, whatever they're speaking. Like it's that part is so good. Like
I love the camera just panning across and they're at a campfire just talking sign. It was I thought it was perfect in that respect. It's what you're saying is true. It's whoever's in that room, and we always give Favreau and Filoni credit, but you've got to believe it goes beyond them. Yeah, in terms.
I don't know if we have did they have an episode about the writers on like the documentary?
No, because it's written like this episode's written by like the episodes are written, I believe, Favreau Filoni. Yeah. Fukumawa, like things like that. Like it's just, but you have to. I have to believe that Favreau writes it and he doesn't write down. Like he'll be like, hey, how do we get Boba Fett in here? Like I don't believe that Jon Favreau woke up one day and goes, I really think I'm just gonna put Cobb Vanth in this episode.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like at some point he had to say, how do we? There was a discussion. How do we get Boba Fett in here?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, how do we do it? And we'll talk about that in a second. But how do you get Boba Fett in here? So then he probably says that to Filoni, and Filoni goes, well, yeah. And Filoni knows a lot, but you have to believe that they went to that story group at some point and said, how exactly do we make this work? Because you need it, right? Like you need Cobb. Like we talked about it last week. That was the perfect introduction for Cobb Vanth, who is a character who you haven't read the book that he's introduced in.
Yeah.
Aaron hasn't read it. I know a lot, and my parents have it, and none of you had an issue with this character being in it. And from what I can tell, no one who has read the book had an issue with the character being in it. And you have to believe that this goes beyond Favreau and Filoni into the writer's room, and those people are finally like being told to do their job, and when they do it, we see how well it can be done.
Yeah, like I'm just looking at the credits now because I kept telling myself I gotta check who directed and written, and you're right, it's Favreau for both on this one.
That was his first episode directing it too, and I noticed, man, I thought the cinematography in this episode was spectacular, and I noticed the directing right away too. I thought some of the shots were fantastic. It was a little bit more cinematic than what we've been getting. Not that we haven't been, I don't want to sound like it's more cinematic, but like it was just, there was elements to it that felt more mature, I should say, and I really dug the look of this episode.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing. I'm still going through this credits, and they haven't gotten, like, they've done the writing thing, but it hasn't been like a whole bunch of writers in a row, right? Because they have a writer's room, right?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Whatever. I'll figure it out later.
The war room.
But yeah, like you can't watch this episode and be like, oh no, they don't know what they're doing. It's like there's so many beautiful things about it. And it's like, I think, speaks to non-Star Wars fans and Star Wars fans, which, like, why would a non-Star Wars fan watch this show? But, like, even if you don't understand Star Wars, you can understand what a Western is. And I think, like, my roommate Joe, that his dad didn't like Mandalorian at first, and then they said, watch it again as if it's a Western. And this episode is, like, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect example of that. And yeah, maybe you don't want to go to Tatooine this much, but like Tatooine is a perfect setting for that Western look. But Navarro is the same, right? Like,
oh yeah, people take issue like there's too many sand planets, there's too many. But I told you, I did the rewatch of the Droids cartoon last year, the year before, whenever it was, and they're all sand planets. I think we have to come to grips with the Star Wars universe as mostly sand planets. Tatooine is such an important part of Star Wars that we can't. The people say that it shrinks the universe, but and look, I agree. I would love to see Naboo again and Kamino. We're obviously going to go to like Mon Cala or something soon. Mm-hmm. More planets are coming, but when you just keep creating planets because you can create planets, all of a sudden it starts to get too big.
And I think that's one of the things we have always said about the new movies, where it's like, well, what about the existing aliens that we saw? And now this story is returning, like you were seeing Quarrens. Wait, what was the bartender? Is he a Quarren?
No, he's a Weequay.
Sorry, Quarren is what we're probably going to see on this water planet.
The water planet.
So that goes back to what I was saying. It's like we're bringing back these Tusken Raiders, and we're learning a little bit more about them. Now they're not mindless people. They are indigenous people living out in the wilds, and they make their life this way. And now they're clashing with this industrialized little village, right? And now, hopefully, I like to think that like this episode, amongst other episodes, like episode 4 of last season, will build up to something at the very end of the show. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but like the what would you call it? The legend of the Mandalorian grows and grows and grows because he's going from place to place, affecting these places are to get what he needs. He's like, he comes in, he saves the day and he leaves, right? So like I feel like that's intentional. Like that will be for something.
You might be right. I believe they know how this series is going to end right now.
Oh yeah,
I believe they have that planned out. But just when people, we want to see new planets and new aliens, yes.
Yeah.
But they have to coexist with what we know, because you look behind you right now, you've got Greedo there to your left. I can't see your right there. No, your other left. Yeah, I can't see the other side. But you've got Jawas, Greedo, C-3PO, things like that, like Ewoks. You have those on your wall. We have all had those on our walls. Those are Star Wars. They are embedded in us in Star Wars, and you can't forget that when you tell these stories. You can add to them, and no one's ever saying don't do that. But you have to acknowledge the past and respect the past, and grow from it and use that as your base for that. And I think this show can get away with it more than other things, though. I think because of the Disney Plus and how it's more EU than Star Wars, I suppose. But it really gets me excited for the Taika Waititi film, if that is the next film, because he worked with this crew. He worked with Favreau, Filoni. And you have, like, there's an episode where, is it Bryce Dallas Howard? Is like, Filoni knows everything. Oh no, it's Gina Carano's like, Filoni knows everything. She's just, you know that Taika Waititi had conversations with Filoni about certain things. Like so I think there's a new understanding in Star Wars land where everybody said there needs to be a Feige, but maybe there isn't going to ever be that type of person in charge of the Star Wars section at Lucasfilm. Maybe it'll just be what it is, but there's an understanding now where, this guy and maybe this group of people in that story group, maybe they should be used more to your advantage while you're making the movie, because Star Wars isn't a Western. Like you're just saying Mandalorian, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but it's not a Clint Eastwood Western.
Oh, exactly.
But you can take what is Star Wars and place it in that if you know what elements you have and how to use them correctly. And that's what this series is doing. And that's what excites me about the future of Star Wars, is that somebody could come in and be like, what do you want to do? Here's your ingredients.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like Star Wars is like, it's called the space opera, but like when you boil down the characters, it's like, here's the evil wizard Darth Vader and the Princess Leia, and then here's your gunslinger Han Solo, who calls himself a pirate. So it's just like bang, 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 bang. You're just going after whatever it is. Oh God, what was I gonna say? You said so many things.
I said a lot. I'm very excited about this show.
Yeah, and like, keep in mind, this is just the first episode coming back. So it's like they've had this successful first season where like they played it safe throughout, and they made they took some chances, and it like hit like hard. Mm-hmm. So now they are in the mode of like, now let's dance, right? So I feel like this first episode is just setting that up as a reminder of like, hey, we got you covered. Here's your Gamorreans wrestling.
So good.
Here's your Tusken Raiders. Here's your Banthas. Here's a crate dragon. Hey, baby, you want to see a crate dragon in real life? Like, boom, there it is.
You know what? The goodwill all stems from, and I genuinely mean this, and you can disagree if you want, but I think the goodwill and why we have so much faith is because of, and this isn't a cop-out, is because of Baby Yoda. Mm-hmm. Because that asset, the child, could have been handled much differently. Mm-hmm. But the way they were so particular and meticulous in how they used the child. They kept him innocent and sweet and cute, but also like he kills things. but they kept him that way, and they acknowledged in this episode when I can't remember the actress's name now, when she's like, "Can I keep him? How much?" Just kidding, but not really. That's all of us, obviously.
Yeah.
But they kept him like that, but they did the one thing that I thought was super crucial. They kept him a mystery.
Yeah. Like arguably the most like interesting character from that series barely did anything in that episode.
Yeah, they literally cut to him like 3 times just to remind you he was there, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want a plushie. But
because remind me, we saw like I think they finally revealed that like there is a Funko Pop coming of Mandalorian on that Bantha. Does he ride the Bantha in that episode? I can't even remember.
Yeah, yes? And Baby Yoda was on, and I think Baby Yoda was on the satchel with him as well.
Yeah, because on that one, he's just in a little bag on the Funko Pop.
That was the greatest thing I've ever seen. I have to talk to you about the Banthas, because last week we talked about them, and we said, well, how are they going to make them look different? What are they going to do? And it was part of the charm is how they looked in the originals. What were your thoughts on the Banthas?
I loved it. I think the thing that we got, the extra new thing that we got was we got to see their faces like super close up, right? Because you can actually and look like a puppet and die. It looked like it was still like a practical puppet, but like there was a lot of shots of just like the eye like really close up. Yeah, that's sweet. There's nothing better like than seeing the scene. Like I realized this on the second watch. It's like Cobb Vanth and the Mandalorian are about to have like a gunslinging match, and they're gonna shoot each other, and then because a crate dragon comes along, completely, it's like, there's going to be trouble, and then the writer's like, nah, screw that, and they literally send in a crate dragon to bring the plot to an exact halt. The whole, I love it. And he zooms in, Cobb Vanth just watches it happen, comes right in, doesn't topple over a building or anything like that. Just comes up, eats the bantha, and is out of there. I'm like that is just, mwah. But oh god, what was I gonna say? You keep asking me a new question.
Did you like the way they looked? That's really all I asked.
Yeah, no, I know. I was gonna say something else, but like. Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I was wondering if there'd be a little bit of CG action. I'm sure there might have been a little bit to make them look a little bit more real. But like that is the thing about this show. You really like the crate dragon is obviously all CG. Like how else?
Oh yeah.
Would you do that? But like
I had a moment.
Before you finish that, did you ever think it's like this is like the creature from Tremors?
Yes. Oh, the whole time. Yes.
Yeah.
There was a moment when you see the sea. And I was like, oh, wow, I wonder where that footage is from. And then I was like, oh, wait, it's on a TV set.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my God, it's a TV set.
That's the other thing, too. It's like, I completely forget that most of that is fake.
I know. It's like, I did not think of this while I watched it, but thinking back, like, I wonder what part of the bar was real. I wonder what part. Oh, but if you, the Death Star, and I don't know who discovered this because I've seen several people tweet this out and put it on Facebook, but when the second Death Star explodes, there is a crawl in Erebush around it, and it is the crawl from the Return of the Jedi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Erebush. It's people have deciphered it, and that's what it is, which is
that's amazing,
beautiful, right there. I gotta mention one thing. Probably my favorite part of the episode. 2 parts are my favorite because I love the prequels to death, and I love the Phantom Menace to death. The pit droids coming back. I was like cheering. I'm like, yeah. And Aaron's like, shut up. And I said, no, that's pit droids. Hit him in the nose. And then that, by the way, I don't know if anyone remembers. I think there was like a Doritos commercial from when the Phantom Menace came out, and that clip was used nonstop. But the other part was when we got Mando on the speeder bike, which who doesn't love a good speeder bike? I would have said me until I saw Cobb Vanth's pod race engine speeder bike where I blew a gasket. I was like, this show is like perfect.
I haven't looked this up, but like, has anyone figured out like, is that like, could that hypothetically be part of like Sebulba's racer or something?
Sebulba's was a little more crazy. People have speculated that it's Anakin's. The coloring was off, but I mean, it could have been painted in 30 years or whatever. For me personally, I just was happy that it was clearly a pod racing engine, and that made my day. If a figure comes out, a Black Series, Elite Series, any Funko Pop where they're on that speeder that is a pod race engine, I am pre-ordering it the minute I can because that made my day.
It's so genius because they're like they mention Amon Espa, where is that where the
Phantom Menace,
the pod racer station, like the what's it called?
And all that,
No, like what would you call that? The racetrack, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Like it's the Bunta Eve classic.
Classic, yeah.
It works so perfect because Jawas are everywhere. So if a pod racer explodes at some point and nobody cleans it up, they're inevitably gonna come and pick it up and just sell it to whoever. It doesn't even mean they sold it to Cobb Vanth. They just sold it to someone that made it into an actual speeder. I'm like, that's genius.
And again, I guarantee you that was not Favreau necessarily. That was somebody, probably not even Filoni, probably past him saying, you know what would be cool? And they're like, because he got, like you just said, he got his armor from the Jawas. Why wouldn't he get this from Jawas? Or why wouldn't he have killed somebody who's got, and they're like, and then the thing that you have to give credit to Favreau and Filoni for is they said, yes. That's what you give them credit, that they say yes. And then when we watch it, we go,
it might not even be in the script. It might be just they are on speeders, and then the designer was like, hey, what if I gave you this? And it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, like Doug Chang is like, remember, I drew this in 1996. Check it out. And they're like, well, Doug Chang drew it. We're going to go with it. I love it. But I love that look that Cobb Vanth gives Amanda when he pulls up in it too. Like, he's so much fun. He's like, I got you. Oh god, what a great episode.
Like, it's so funny looking at Cobb Vanth with the Boba Fett armor because it looks so small on him.
That's what Andrew said,
When you look at like Boba Fett in general, it's like, it's about that size, but because he's wearing, and maybe it's just because he's wearing a different color scheme underneath, and it's old looking, and it's not as sleek as it is on the Boba Fett character. Like, but I think that's like, you want that because you're like, this is not who you think it is.
As someone mentioned, it looked too big and too small at the same time.
But it still held
perfect.
up.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
But you know what? I said this to you through text, and like, you're right, and but I also think they never announced really who Ultimate was and who Tamora Morrison's gonna play, but it still got out there, and it's like, I'm someone that's skeptical about like Star Wars. Star Wars is pretty good at keeping secrets. Like, you can say whatever you want, but like, I know places like Making Star Wars or whatever, like, it's just like, I'm pretty sure they allowed it. Because like, I think if you criticize this episode is like, because like I was saying before, you don't have that moment of like, oh, so people like us who've been waiting for information constantly, I wasn't surprised that Fett was going to walk in as Boba Fett. And I was not surprised when Tamora Morrison just appears on the horizon. It's great, and I'm very, very excited. Don't get me wrong, but it would have been nice to not know a thing. Because imagine if we didn't know they were cast at all. Like, whatever. But if Tamora Morrison had been like the tight secret, like, that episode would be like, oh!
Yeah, I know. I agree. Someone dropped the ball there, and it might have just been that something was scooped when it shouldn't have been scooped. Sure. But that's part of the world we live in, right?
Yeah. Or this is all part of their plan, right? And these characters are not the big reveals.
I don't think. I mean, you've got to think the Cobb Vanth Boba Fett is not a big reveal, because the episode starts like, well, it's on Tatooine, and you're like, there's only one armor that's going to be on Tatooine, right?
Yeah.
So when you go there, and you're like, okay, but the surprise is more that we know that Boba Fett's dead.
Yeah.
And so we realize, someone's got his armor. He's not dead. But if his armor is there, where is he? Right?
Yeah.
So there's that, and then of course he's at the end. Do you think that was Boba Fett at the end of the Fennec Shand episode of the Mando, which was episode 5, I want to say.
Maybe. Like it would be a good way to bring that up again, because like that's the thing. Like, I want to know who that was, but how do you put it back into an episode that you're not like, what's going on? You know what I mean? And they're pretty good at doing that. So an easy solution, if you're going to bring it up again, is somehow have Tamara Morrison's Boba Fett character work into it. I don't know. Like, it's we're still assuming he's Boba Fett. He could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, when he was first cast, there was the only thing with Boba Fett that makes sense is he's the only clone that doesn't have the aging, right?
Yeah.
So he kind of matches what he would be. And I'm gonna call him Boba Fett because I don't care. I would.
Yeah. I mean, that's what IMDb says he is.
Well, his agent accidentally or put on his CV online that he was Boba Fett in September, I want to say. And they quickly removed it. Yeah, so that happened. So I think he is Boba Fett. And I think he's Boba Fett because the episode alludes to him being Boba Fett. No other clone knows that that's around, really, right? So he's...
but Reham hasn't watched this yet, so I haven't told her anything, so I'm waiting to hear her response. If she'll figure that out, because it's like...
But is it... Okay, here's another question. If she doesn't, does it matter at this point in time?
No, because then you watch the show and you're like, oh, who's this mysterious stranger?
Exactly.
And that's
a different element to it, right?
Like, the story is fine regardless of what you know or don't know.
Yeah, just exactly with Cobb Vanth. You never knew him. Like, people didn't know who he was, and now he is a Star Wars character, full-fledged, T-shirts and all.
Even if you don't recognize the Boba Fett armor, it doesn't matter, right? Like, it's just
because it's a Mandalorian armor. Like
there, right? Yeah.
And it's the story that he tells. It's like, it was a Mandalorian's, and now I have it. And that's
what I'm confused about. And correct me if you have the answer. He start the episodes like, I've been what's the word he uses? I've been charged to bring this creature back to his people.
Yeah.
And then, but like, why is he looking for Mandalorian armor?
There was an explanation, but now I can't remember. He's not looking for armor. He's looking for more Mandalorians, and because that's not a Mandalorian wearing the armor, he needs to take it back. But he needs more Mandalorians to help. I can't remember what it was.
But like, is that explained in this episode, or
explained? I believe it was at the beginning.
Right, like he's not being charged by like someone in the covert to go find.
No, he's trying to find the covert.
Right.
To help him with the child, to bring them the child to Jedi.
Right.
I think I got to rewatch the opening.
Yeah, so like, which is fine. Like, I don't need exact answers. I was just like, wait, I don't remember when this happened. Or is this something that's happened in between the seasons and we're going to get explanation? Which
I don't think much time happened between the seasons, to be honest. I think they're pretty like, bam. Like
right.
It happens pretty soon. Here's a question. When does Cobb Vanth come back?
I don't know. I think perhaps episode 5 or 6.
That's what I was gonna say.
Assuming if like he comes back for some like final showdown at the end of the season, I don't know.
I hope it's not. They don't mirror season 1. People are calling for a Cobb Vanth spin-off series, which I would totally watch.
Yep. Yeah.
The bartender and him, I would watch. It could be Cheers, but on Tatooine. God,
Oliphant. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you want to hear people complain
Oliphant as a
Tatooine too much.
Yeah, well, like Elephant as a cowboy is a home run. Like
Elephant,
Deadwood,
the killer in Scream 2 is.
But like, it just everything about like his whole costume was cool. Like, even when he takes the armor off, it's just like that old Western style where like the buttons up on both sides, but then it flaps over like that. His hair was cool. Like, I was like, man, Oliphant, you can just put you in anything and you're good. And I think he understands that. It's like, oh, just take everything, every role seriously, and people respect you. So I loved it. So I hope he comes back.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent. I hope he comes back too. I'm not in a rush to see him necessarily, because I like the show and I don't care.
Yeah.
I can't wait for episode 2, which is coming up in a few short days. I think they're all going to be around 45 to 55 an hour long, which is fine. I did have to pee at one point. I didn't, but I was like, I like half hours. I'm a huge fan of half hours. 21 minutes is even a stretch. No, I really like the episode. But it was like it did like it started off with like that prologue. Then we got to Tatooine. Then we got to Tatooine. Then we got to the crate drag. It was like 3 episodes in one. It just was like boom, boom, boom. Things that were happening. I thought it was spectacular. I can't wait for more. But we still have Grief Karga, Cara Dune, and that's all we really know about the season.
I said to you through text is like I love that 50% of most of the trailers they put out were from this episode.
Yeah, and then obviously they have to show you other episodes to show you Cobb, Vanth, and Cara Dune. But I completely agree. You want to go to the odds?
Let's do it.
Never tell me the odds.
Never tell me the odds. Brought to you and me and everyone by our Patreons. Wonderful, wonderful people that think we're great and want to support us. If you want to support us, check us out on patreon.com/Rebel Scum Podcast and help us out. Or whatever. Just listen to us because we like to know that people care about Star Wars as much as us. And our Patreon supporters are Heidi Fetter, executive producer, Barry Brophy, Dennis Allen, Mary Kristen Aton, Jeff Wilson, Phil Stanforth, Sooner Thrawn, Scott D, Josh Price, Matt W,
Rez. Oh, you got Rez. We double Rez.
I can't remember.
I don't know either.
That's pretty good for internet that we got it right on the same.
It's been terrible the whole time, and then Rez brings us together.
Rez.
Frank Perkins, Neil Lowry, D. Raven Spencer, Gleek Play 1, Automated Joy, Disney Desi, Charlotte, Kayla Davis, Aaron Quinton, Jericho Kane, Girls with Sabers, and the Den of Nerds. Guess what?
What up?
I forgot to plug in my computer. Uh-oh. So we'll see if this works because I can't get it. Might have to do it on the news. All right, here we go. Never tell me
the odds.
Thank you all of our Patreon supporters. It really means a lot to us. The odds of Cobb Vanth returning this season.
I think like 80%.
Yeah.
Like he's a pretty fleshed out character, and they typically only reserve that for people that come back. Like,
and they go out of the way.
If we compare it to episode 4, he's there just to be at the point. Yeah. Do you know what the name of that woman is? I don't remember, but I remember who Oliphant's character is.
And what I was gonna say is they go out of their way to say, hopefully we meet again. Hopefully our paths cross. Like they go out of their way to say that. So
yeah.
I would suspect we're gonna see. I'm gonna go 87%.
Nice.
Will Boba Fett, never tell me the odds, will Boba Fett be in chapter 10? Will he be in this Friday's episode of The Mandalorian?
Yeah, that's something I gotta get used to. The fact that it's chapters that continues from the last season. I was like, I want to say yes, he'll be in this, but like, yeah, why not? Why not hold off just a bit? I'm gonna go 75%. I think it's like, I think you put them in and you get to it right away, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm of two minds. I'm of the mind where they're going to continue the Boba Fett thing for a few episodes, and then his arc will be done and we'll move on to something else. Or like they did last season where this episode he'll be gone. Like we won't see or hear from him at all. He'll be in the teaser probably, or maybe if he's not in the teaser, he's not in the episode, 100%. But I'm going to go full Brock. I have to go full Brock. I'm going to have to cheapen out and go full Brock because I really like it's either going to be Boba Fett heavy and he's the purpose of the first few episodes, or they're going to just sprinkle him in throughout the season and eventually their paths will meet and come to a head.
Yeah.
At some point. And our final odd today, will Baby Yoda use the Force in Chapter 10? He used the Force. The first time we saw Baby Yoda use the Force was in Episode 2 of the first season. This is Episode 2 of the second season. Are they going to mirror what they did? And will he use the Force in Chapter 10?
I'm going to go high, like 95%, because it's like, it'd be perfect to be like, oh, by the way, Baby Yoda's still here. Yeah, 95.
I'm going to go 63%. I don't know if... I mean, at some point, he's got to do something, like you said, but he also doesn't because we all love him.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. Let us know what you guys think of your odds are for this week's show in the comments down below. Hollow news. Did you want to say something?
How many things do you think Baby Yoda's going to crawl into this season?
Anything they can figure. Every time he crawls into something, you know what they say? That's a toy. That's a toy.
It's so funny because he moves so slow, but when there's trouble, all of a sudden he's in something. Like, that gag will probably never get old. He's like, oh, he's in a pot over there. Oh, he's hidden behind the rock over there.
I love, when he went in the little bug, I was like, oh, this is the best. Aaron was saying, was it on the Bantha it was the when he's riding the Bantha, I was like, this is going to be a ride at Disney, and it'll be like the E.T. ride at Universal, but instead of E.T.'s head popping out, it'll be Baby Yoda's head popping out, and we'll all be like, oh my gosh. Greatest thing ever. All right, news?
Hollow news.
Hollow news. My mic is on.
Hollow news. The news you need to know right now. So, Felicity Jones has been talking about Star Wars again. She apparently was being interviewed by the Hollywood Reporter and started talking about the fate of Jyn Erso. She says, I just keep saying that reincarnation is totally possible in the Star Wars universe. So I feel there's unfinished business for Jyn for sure. Now, you can take that any way you want. The character's dead, and it's kind of, I don't know, would you say vital that she dies? But yeah. And then she goes on to say, I think it would be fascinating to see her getting older and wiser and fighting with the dark forces in the universe, of which there are many, it seems. So Felicity wants to come back. I don't know. I don't know how exactly you do that. It sounds too much like cloning, and I don't know, but that's cool. Like it's I like hearing the Star Wars actors of the past saying, "Oh, I'd do that again." In humorous news, if you haven't heard of Ben Shapiro yet, then you probably haven't been paying attention. He's the podcaster, commentator, writer, reporter, I don't know, who famously read the lyrics to the new Cardi B song on there. So apparently he tweeted recently prior to the American elections that are happening or about to happen, depending on when you're listening to this. He tweeted out, "No matter who wins tomorrow, let's all remember the most important thing, The Last Jedi is a terrible movie." That's fine. He has his opinion, but if you're gonna be trolling on Twitter, you better get ready for repercussions. Too many wops in it, I guess, which is a reference to the Cardi B song he read the lyrics on air for. If you're gonna go toe to toe with the director of The Last Jedi, you better be ready, because Rian Johnson knows how to tweet. So go check that out, because I believe a lot of people have just been trolling Ben Shapiro right back on the things he says. And this has been your Hollow News.
That's the Hollow News. Top 5. Sorry, I was plugging in the computer. It is plugged in. Anyway, Jyn Erso being reincarnated, aka I would love to have another paycheck, is actually what
absolutely. I just didn't want to say it all.
That's really what that is. And who could really blame her for that? I would not at all.
I'm all for it if the story makes sense. Which, I mean, I guess you could play some like Galen had her DNA somewhere saved, and someone just
just do a prequel. Just go back and tell us a prequel like a year before, and then whatever.
Or somehow her and Cassian survive a massive blast.
There was no Death Star. All right, because the Mandalorian draft, we're going to do our top 5 favorite moments, or top 5 moments that made us go, yay, from Mandalorian Chapter 9, Season 2, Episode 1. By the way, you said you have to get used to calling the episodes. My mom sent me a text before she watched. She goes, is it Season 2, Episode 1, Chapter 9? I'm like, very convoluted title, but yes, that's the one that you have to watch. It's kind of, they should just call it what it is, right? Like Season 2, Episode 1, then the show, when you watch it, can be Chapter 9. That's great. But anyway, whatever. That's who cares. So top 5 favorite moments from the Mandalorian. My number 5, Brock, is when we saw it in the trailer when he uses the, what's it called, the flying Dutchman dragons.
Pran.
Huh?
Oh, the rocket.
Yeah, but when he closes the pram, that is my number 5 because it's a great moment. It was great in the trailer, and it was great in the show, and I love it. And I love John Leguizamo, and it's a great show.
Yeah. Like, I love that they kept that hidden, John Leguizamo. Not that that's a huge reveal, but it's just like, yeah, they still got it. So if they're keeping that under wraps, then you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My number 5 is going to be similar, kind of in the same scene where they're walking into Hi.
I lost you. What was your number 5?
Okay. What was the last thing you heard?
I didn't hear you say your number 5 at all.
Okay. My number 5 is sort of in the same scene as yours. I love the part where they are walking up to this underground club and you see the graffiti of like the stormtrooper, what looks like stormtroopers, or maybe Darth Vader, and then also what looks like C-3PO. And I'm like, yeah, I like that detail.
It's so good. My number 4 is the introduction to one Cobb Vanth. I loved it. 1 second. Just writing in my number 3. I thought it was a great introduction. That was a Western to a T. It really, it had elements of the first season too. But when he just walks in, he goes, and he kind of establishes himself. You're like, oh, this is a guy you don't want to mess with. But then as it goes on, the fact that he knows that the Mandalorian would beat him if they came to it really spoke a lot to the character and to the show itself. So I really like Cobb Vanth's introduction.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's my number 4 as well. Like, wow, like great character,
awesome, fantastico. My number 3 is the Gamorrean guards fighting, because I love Gamorrean guards and I love watching them fight. And then when the one guy got shot, I was like, oh man. So I absolutely loved it. And when the one ran away, it was just great. I just love seeing it, and I will watch it again and again and again and again and again and again.
My number 3 is going to be the return of Amy Sedaris' character, which I guess I should learn the name. It's sort of like, I guess if you had to cut something from that episode, you could have cut her out because he could have just discovered where to go another way. But like, it was just nice. It's like, here's that character. She's not going to go away. And I assume we'll see her every season. I guess that means we're going back to Tatooine. But like it's fun. And it's also, it kind of gives you, it's a quick way to like set the scene again. Like, I like the fact that she remembers things about him where it's like, she's like yelling at the picture. It's like, come on, he doesn't like your kind.
Oh, he does like your kind now. I what I liked about her being in this episode is my number 2. My number 2 is pit droids. but like what I liked about her in this episode is she is the Mandalorian and our gateway into Tatooine. She is the one that welcomes us there, and that's how it goes on this show. She gets us to Tatooine. If you're playing a video game, there's always that person you meet when you get to a certain level, right? When you go back, that person's there. That's what she is, the character of Tatooine that we know that the Mandalorian knows and uses because he trusts her also. So I love that they brought her back. But yeah, my number 2 is pit droids because I cannot get enough pit droids. Bring in more prequel era stuff for me. That's what I've been saying since the prequels.
My number 2 is the possible reveal that Boba Fett is still alive. Probably would have been higher if we had no clue Tamara Morrison was going to be in this. Though we do not know who he is yet. I think it looks a little different. It doesn't look like he has eyebrows for some reason. So I'm curious about that.
Sarlacc acid.
Yeah, I love it. And he's got a gun and a gaffy stick. So I'm like, oh, is he like... I'm curious on like what the background of the character, like why does he look like that? And like, I'm really looking forward to that. So I hope that we don't have to wait long, but yeah, number 2 for that for me.
My number 1 is Cobb Vanth on a pod race scout biker bike thing. I loved it. I don't even care. I have no shame. I just throw prequel crap in and I'm like, that's my favorite. Here's my money.
My number 1 is going to be the crate dragon. We finally get to see it. And just the scene in general is awesome. Like I love the fact that they're like, if you listen carefully, you can hear him breathing. It's like, are you sure it's in there? But then like how inevitably the Mandalorian has to save the day by getting swallowed.
Yeah.
Everything looked really, really good. And it's like a testament of how far filmmaking has come, where it's like that would have looked like garbage if they made this in the original Star Wars day. Maybe not. I don't know. But like that trope of like somebody getting swallowed by a massive monster, then exploding it from the inside or killing it from the inside is so like it's been done. But like this was like, oh, that looks great, and that it looks believable on how he's like emerging. You know?
Yeah, it definitely, for something that we've seen a million times, it worked and felt fresh.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, this again.
It made like his like, oh god, what's the gun with the forks at the end? There's a name for it.
The Mandalorian gun.
Yeah, the one that's like the holiday special. That makes that so much cooler because he uses its like shocking whatever to get out of the thing after he hits the thing. Like, great, so good.
Absolutely, it was just a wonderful episode to a wonderful show. So I was relieved that it's still good. I was like, oh, here we go, sophomore slumps, and it's still good. It still could fall into a trap, but I feel like, to your point earlier, is it got its feet wet in the first season. Now it's here to play ball. Now it's here to kind of tell us the story. And what's the story? Is the story getting Baby Yoda back to his? By the way, I'm calling him Baby Yoda. I don't care. But is it the story of getting Baby Yoda back to his species, back to the Jedi? Is it about finding Mandalorian, or is the ultimate storyline now have something more to do with Boba Fett that we did not suspect leading into it? Like, what is his game plan here? What is his end game in this series? I don't know why Boba Fett's there. Like, so I mean, I have speculations about it, but I don't know exactly why he's there, and I'm excited for it.
This might get me some hate on the internet, but like Cobb Vanth is the best Boba Fett I've ever seen.
I don't think so. I think a lot of people, Cobb Vanth, people want his own series already. People love Cobb Vanth. I don't think you have to worry about that.
But he puts that armor to the best use out of anyone that's worn that armor. Like,
I wouldn't disagree. I think I don't think I disagree. I would say if this episode would have come out in September, there would be more Cobb Vanth Halloween adults as Cobb Vanth for Halloween than Mandalorian, is what I would say.
It wouldn't have mattered. They wouldn't have had it out till next March anyways.
That's true. I do think going forward, I think you'll see a lot like cosplayers at celebrations and fan expos I think you'll see a lot of Cobb Vanths. And you don't have to wear the helmet. You can just hold it beside you if you get hot. You're like, I'll just take this off and it's right here. I think so. That's so much fun. Anyway, we should wrap this up.
What an episode, James. It's nice to have some real Star Wars content to talk about.
I know. It's been so long. By the way, for anyone wondering, I had this bad facial hair for Halloween. I just have been too lazy to shave it, and Aaron cannot stand it. I have a pipe too. I don't know if I showed you, but I bought a pipe for
you did.
For my thing. Anyway, yeah, it's great to talk Star Wars. We're gonna do the next one soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because we just want to get to the Mandalorian as soon as we can get to the Mandalorian. But anyway, is there anything else you want to say?
No. I mean, we're recording this ahead of time, so the election is happening right now. So good luck, America. I hope you have record voting. Whatever turns out, I hope the Americans are taking their votes seriously by at least voting. So
yeah,
good luck to you.
It's too early. It's too early right now when we're recording this, but this is up obviously the day after. So God bless America. We do love you guys down there. So, but stay safe and wear a mask. And just don't cough on each other.
I need to go to Target again. Stop being selfish.
I'm running low on Dunkin' Donuts. I'm not even joking. I'm starting to get nervous now. I'm like,
America and James runs on Dunkin'.
I don't know. I just love my Dunkin' Donuts, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. And I was drinking some today, and I was like, oh man, I only have like 6 bags left. I was like, it's problematic. So yeah, if we can get the border open, so we can go to Target, and then you can grab me some Dunkin' Donuts, that would be. I use like the beans, like Dunkin' Donut beans. I would also go to a Dunkin' Donuts, but I take it home when I have it here. So that's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that'll wrap up this episode 188 episodes of the Rebel Scum podcast. Which one am I? I'm James. He's Brock. He knows that because he was always scum.
Rebel Scum.
You know, that line was from The Last Jedi, which we can all agree was a terrible movie. I had to Google WAP.
WAP. Cool.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.